Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today in this video we are finally starting the restoration of the final piece of the IBM puzzle. And by that I mean this tank, the IBM PC 5160, also known as the IBM PC XT, the final part of the IBM Trio, of whose restoration I started a couple years ago now, and I'm finally getting around to doing the final part, which is, well, like I said, the PC XT. I have been both extremely eager to crack into this thing and finally get, hopefully get anyway, this thing running and restored and displayed up next to its siblings, the 5150 and the 5170. And I've also been extremely nervous to start this one as well because of what was found on the motherboard when I originally picked this thing up and I opened them then. I'm gonna get some B-roll shots of this thing real quick to show kind of some of the dirt, debris, and some of the damage to it. And then we're going to crack it open and start tearing it apart and seeing what we find. So let's just get started. Okay, so before I take this into the computer and start taking it apart, let's take a good look at it and see some of the stuff that needs to be done to it on the cosmetic side anyway. There is some dirt and scuffs on top. There is a dent right here, and I don't remember if that was there. I'll need to look back at my original footage. It might have been, I don't fully remember. We have what looks like a piece of sticky tape that might have been here. The 360K drive is dirty, but it's not too bad. If it is faulty, I do have a couple more spares. The IBM hard drive, which I showed in a TikTok involving the history of hard drives. Okay, on the back we got the IBM 5160 badge, information sticker, power supply, exhaust fan, and the 8 expansion slots. Hence the PC XT, or extended technology. So what is the IBM 5160, and why am I so excited to finally get to the restoring this thing? Besides the fact it's a vintage computer, and I think it would look really cool, and I know it would look really cool sitting next to the other IBMs I have in there. Well, for starters, the IBM PC 5160, also known as the PC XT, in which the XT stands for Extended Technologies, was the natural progression and evolution of the original PC 5150, even though there really wasn't a lot of changes between this one and its sibling, the 5150. They use basically many of the same chips, same CPU, same slot style, a lot of the same chips, and even the same base architecture, x86. In fact, almost everything that would work with the 5150 would work with the 5160 and vice versa, with a couple asterisks for compatibility's sake. The 5160, though, what made it different was mainly in the base RAM. The base RAM for the original PC 5150 was 16 to 64K on board, with a maximum RAM amount of, I believe it was 584 kilobyte of total RAM. And even though later 5150s did allow for 64 to 256K on board with up to 640K of RAM, these out of the box was 64 to 256K on the board with a max RAM of 640K total RAM. And not only that, with some minor modifications, the main board here could take up to 640K of RAM without an expansion card, which is the 5150 couldn't. These allowed for the use of external boot ROMs such as EGA, VGA, hard drive controllers. Not only that, but the main difference between this and the 5150 was this polished the architecture of x86, in which it had 8 expansion slots. This is before they were called ISA, so that's why I'm not saying ISA here, but these were 8-bit expansion slots, whereas the IBM 5150 had only 5. And because of the spacing between the slots, this actually has a lot more in common with modern computers than the 5150 did. You basically cannot take a 5150 motherboard and put it into a standard or modern-ish AT style or ATX style case. Nor can you take a modern motherboard and put into one of those as a sleeper. However, this one, because the slots are the same width as modern computers, and the layout's pretty close to modern computers, you could theoretically put this motherboard inside of a more modern, late 90s AT style case, and vice versa. I could put a 486, Super Socket 7, whatever motherboard in this chassis and it would work, which is why a lot of things later started to be known as XT compatible, because, well, this started the whole XT compatibility by having more expansion slots and also a little bit more compatibility with boot ROMs and such. Obviously, there's a lot more finer details with that. I'm basically just hugely Reader's Digest condensing that. So there's a lot more going on with that than just the little things I mentioned. But that was the main selling points over the 5160, over the 5150, which was more slots and potentially more RAM out of the box and out of the gate. Theoretically speaking, 256K on the original 5150 was more than enough for it and a lot of games that it would run. 512K was a lot for what it could run. This is really about the time when 640K was becoming the standard for PC and PC architectures. And again, not just to mention that even though the 5150 started the XT or the x86 architecture, this polished it, and this is what became the evolution of modern AT and ATX, EATX, and all that we know it today. The thing is, there is a lot of arguments about which one really started the whole PC architecture movement, this or the 5150. But that's not the point of this video. The point is, now that I'm done rambling, we're gonna get to dismantling and starting the restoration. Okay, let's take the top cover off. And that comes off a lot easier than the 5150. Okay, so I'm gonna get some better close-up shots here before I tear it apart, but we have the massive Aztec model AA12150, IBM part number 1501439. I don't remember how much power this thing puts out, but this is a it predates the AT standard, but it's the same 10-pin power connectors that the later ATs use, so it's considered AT even though it's out of an XT. I actually don't know if this what the standard's called. I know the plugins are called AT. I think it's, I'm not 100% sure what they call it, to be honest. I'll have to look that up later. But it's extremely dirty. That fan is nasty. Up next, we have the ST. We have the Seagate ST412 10 megabyte MFM double height. Yeah, double height hard drive. What do you see? What did I get this thing out? This thing looks massive. No idea if it works. I'm pretty sure it's going to be dead. Most of these are dead anyway, but yeah, 10 whole megabytes right here. We have a single 360K IBM branded double-sided double density drive, which is identical to what's in the 5150. Like I said, 360K capacity, double-sided. It's dirty, but I don't see nothing wrong with it. No bad wires, no previous repairs. The terminal resistor block is there, so this is the only floppy drive that was meant for this. We have a couple cards, and then, yeah. Okay, so here's the Aztec power supply, the hard drive, floppy drive, which looks like I need to take the cards out, ribbon cables, all the expansion cards, and yeah, this is something I'm worried about. Look at all that nastiness. And it was a lot worse when I first got it. There was, ooh, I see that power wire, that ground wire is chewed up. I need to repair that. But yeah, it was nasty when I opened this up. Like, it was up to here of, well, mouse nest. So I have no idea if this board is ever going to work again, but we are going to give it its best try. So let's start tearing this thing apart. All right, let's start with the expansion cards. And we're just going to take all the slot covers off too. The slot covers. Okay, let's start with the outermost one. We have a classic IBM MDA display card, which is really interesting that this has the MDA card because the 5150 had the Hercules card when I first got it, and the 5170 had the CGA card. So monochrome display and parallel for printer use. Yeah, look at the size of that thing. So when I first got this thing and I started looking at some of the cards that were in here, I was not sure what this was. It didn't have a backing plate on it, and it seemed way too small to be anything other than just a real-time clock card. But there was somebody on a Facebook Marketplace listing, in one of the groups I'm in, that was selling this exact thing, and I decided to do a little bit of research on it, and this is a Turner Hall Publishing real-time clock and 256K expansion card from about 1985, 1986. In fact, I think somewhere on here it actually will say it. Yeah, 1985. Really interesting little compact card. I have no idea if this is compatible with the 5150, so I probably won't be able to test this out on anything except for this. But it does have real-time clock capabilities, and I kind of wonder, with how small and compact this thing is, I really wonder if it's possible to reverse engineer this somehow, because it doesn't look like it'd be that complicated. And honestly, if it could be reverse engineered and duplicated, I mean, this would be a really compact little thing for XTs and PCs if it's compatible. Up next, So this is the controller card for the MFM hard drive here. And yeah, it's a massive, massive thing. And if you're kind of wondering what this was for, what the point of this was, because you'll see a PCB on this, these are basically dumb. They don't have any logic. The only logic here is basically what's on this little PCB here. That basically controls the platter and the write head in terms of it moving. This is what controls the board on here to lay down its format for MFM, RLL, or whatever format it would be for any specific kind of computer, whether it be mini computer or this 8-bit here. This is actually really cool. IBM part number 1501492. I'm gonna have to do some research and see exactly what this thing fully is, but this looks like a very early MFM controller card. I'm going off of the one that I pulled out of the 5150, which is a lot smaller and a lot more consolidated. Up next is the floppy drive controller card, which was needed because, well, these motherboards didn't support controlling floppies natively. That's what this was for. And this is identical to what's in the 5150. Has a header for the external floppy drives, which I've never seen one, honestly, for one of these PCs. 49 of 83. So yeah, this is about the same week and all that stuff as the one out of the 5150, which is hilarious, because that's a very late 5150. And in case you're wondering, yes, I'm going to be washing my hands very thoroughly when I get done with this. But there we have the very dusty 360K drive, which is again a Tandon TM100-2A from 1984. Oh, and it spins free. Awesome. Does the read-write head move? I'm not gonna try and put any floppy in there because there's a massive amount of dust bunnies in there. Good God, this thing is just filled to the brim with just dust. Good Lord. Really careful with this because it's fragile. But yeah, look at that beefy monstrosity. ST412. I believe this is a whopping 10 whole megabytes, which, yeah, doesn't sound like a lot, but considering this was 1983, and any hard storage like this would have been prohibitively expensive for the average consumer at the time, yeah, this would not have ran in the 5150. This would have drawn way too much wattage and basically shut down the power supply in the 5150, which was only a 63 watt power supply, if that tells you anything. Hopefully this thing works, but I am not gonna hold my breath. In fact, this is gonna be very fragile for me to touch. I'm not setting it down partially because I wanna see if it'll work when I get done. Get the floppy drive cable, which, yeah, this is the one I was expecting to be in the 5150 because the other one's got a blue one, which is really neat. Set that over here with the parts. Really unique cable in which I could probably control 2 MFM drives, but I would need 2 ST412s or probably 2 matching drives. As I'm tearing this apart, I'm kind of realizing the only one I'm missing in terms of the original PC family lineup would be the 5162, which is kind of a weird hybrid 5160 and 5170. It's a weird hybrid in the middle. I would love to find one of those, but those are very, very prohibitively rare. Oh, okay. There's the power supply. Very dirty, very disgusting, and chewed wires. So yeah, this is going to be a fun new unit to try and repair. There's the little PC, or the little speaker, and look at that original tag, 1984. And yeah, there's the motherboard. Look at all that damage. This is going to just get soaked in some simple green and some warm water, and yeah, I'm just going to let it soak for quite a while, and hopefully I can get it brought back. But what's interesting is all these RAM chips here seem to be IBM branded. IBM 2164-20s, and they're all the same. None of them have been replaced. 64 or 256K RAM board, and no copying permitted. I guess nobody listened, Compaq. Yeah. Okay, so while the motherboard's deep soaking in some hot water and simple green, I'm gonna get the case cleaned up real quick, and then we're going to we'll do some testing anyway to some of the cards that came out of this thing, and go from there. Okay, that looks a lot better. Feels a lot better. Smells a lot better, obviously. Yeah, there's still a few little things here, and there's a dent there. I don't know if I'm gonna try and fix, but this thing inside and out does look a lot better. So now, I'm gonna test out some of these cards in the 5150 and just see if any of them work. I'm not sure if I want to test the hard drive yet. I might do it. I don't know yet. We'll just see. So let's go get the stuff switched over into the PC 5150 and see what works and what doesn't. Okay, so I've got the camera pointed at the AMDEC monitor. I got the 5150 right there. So let's start testing out some cards out of the 5160. All right, so first one is we're going to try out the MDA card and see if it works. And yeah, here's the one out of the 5150. This is it's an older one that came out of another 5150 I had that was dead. Same thing with the mouse problem. But as you can see, there is some differences between them. This one's a little bit lighter green. But you can kind of see the traces on this one. So I think this one's older. Actually, I'm not sure which one's older. They all have 84 date codes on them. So either way, let's try this one out. All right, see if it works. Turn off the light here so I can see what I'm doing. I do see a blinking cursor, and unfortunately, the glare is right where it needs to be. Can I block it so people can see? Yay! I can block it. So yeah, I do have at least some sort of image. So I just want to see if it'll boot the XT IDE BIOS. Look at that. We have a perfectly working card. Okay, so we got another working MDA card. So if anything happens to this one, well, I have a spare. And yes, I'm popping it back in because I just want to, since I know it works, just keep using it while I'm testing other stuff. All right, up next is pop out the RAM card. So this is a 256K memory card from the original IBM. And this is a Turner Hall Publishing one. Let's just see if it works. Probably going to give me a parity error because I don't see a parity chip on there. This is the only problem with testing testing this with this 5150s. That takes forever to boot. Oh, it didn't give me a RAM error. Okay, so it didn't give me a RAM error, so that means that card must be working. I must have 512K RAM, because if it had a boot error, or if it had a RAM error, it would give me a RAM error and then these two ROM errors, because I still haven't fixed the ROM issue with this for basic. But holy crap, so I must have a working 256K memory card there. So yeah, I wish there was a backplate for that, but holy crap, that's awesome. So yeah, I definitely want to replace that real-time clock battery, but this would be really useful. Since I know it works on the 5150 now, this might be something I actually put in the 5150 so that I have a real-time clock to save date and time. Put the original RAM card back in. Okay, now, and yeah, this is the one I just pulled out of my 5150, and this is the one that came out of the 5160. They're basically identical. There's two socketed chips though, and I do see some evidence of rework on this one from the XT, especially this capacitor here. So maybe this is a earlier model. I'm going to fast forward to when it gets to the booting from floppy part, because this takes forever. Hey, look at that. It booted. So cool. We have a working floppy controller too. Awesome. I mean, I guess if all else fails, that means I'll have a bunch of working spare parts for my 5150 if anything goes wrong. Okay, and you know what? I'm going to go for broke. I'm going to try the last card. We're going to try the hard drive controller with the hard drive. Might as well. Everything's working so far. I mean, realistically, it's not going to work, but never know. I'm just now realizing I could have tested all this with the Turbo XT, because that boots up faster, but I'm not thinking about that right now. Okay, I just got to be really, really careful with this. Okay, so I've got the Seagate hard drive balanced on a piece of plastic. That way there's no metal-to-metal contact. Controller card in, powered. So realistically, this will spin up and, well, spin up or make some sort of noise. Optimistically, I'll see something on screen. So, ooh. Ooh. That didn't sound good at all. Let's see what happens though. Really hope I got that on mic, because that sounded awful. Whoa, what? Oh, wait a minute, did I? Wait a minute, there's a C prompt? Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh, but that sounds awful. I'm gonna get my mic close to that. Listen to that thing. Oh my god. Oh my god. It is working. Menu, PW. Oh my god. This has MS Tools. Directory is first fed. Yeah, it's a working hard drive. What version of DOS is in here? Incorrect DOS. Oh, Doug, I booted from the floppy drive first. What's menu? Whoa. IBM Writing Assistant, Lotus 123, Professional Word Write Processor, Filing Assistant. Whoa. This is awesome. Looks like we have another. There's a folder called DOS. Yeah, it's an actual DOS installation. Oh my god. Wow. Yeah, it's just an installation of DOS. This is. Whoa. Okay, I need to like park this hard drive or something. I need to find a way to park that hard drive. Oh my gosh. Well, that's unexpected. Okay, and here is the 5160's motherboard. This thing was soaking in hot water and simple green for several hours. I scrubbed it with a toothbrush while it was soaking in there. Rinse it off with some distilled water, and then rinse that off with some rubbing alcohol, and then let it dry for a few days. And this thing looks so much better. It smells a heck of a lot better. I'm gonna get some better pictures of this thing here after this. But yeah, we have the 8 expansion slots here. We have the 256K of RAM here, all the support chips. I'm not sure what all these chips are right off the top of my head. I will have to do some looking to see what they are. But interestingly enough, we have the 8088 processor here made by AMD. So it's AMD branded, which makes it awesome. But also these chips here are all made by AMD as well. And yeah, by this time, AMD was not making their own CPUs. They were basically just a chip fab company. So yeah, it's actually kind of neat that it's AMD branded, but it's not like it's anything different. It's just, it was one of the many chip fabs IBM had at the time. There is some damage from the mice chewing on these slots, especially this one here, but all the pins are intact and they're all nice and clean. There's no corrosion. There's no battery corrosion, thankfully. Yeah, this thing looks so much better. Okay, and here we have the power supply. Gonna check this thing out here in a minute, but I drilled out the rivets and removed the screws, so we're gonna pull the top cover off and take a look and see what the inside looks like. And hopefully there's no head caps. Okay, so besides being really dusty, yeah, it's actually not bad. There's no bulging caps that I can see. I don't see anything leaking. Nothing majorly out of the ordinary. So, yeah, I'm going to take this to work. I took the floppy drive to work and I forgot to take this. So I'll take this to work and blow the dust out of it. And then we'll do some power testing with it and we'll repair this wire. And then, yeah, we'll test it and see how it goes. Okay, and there's the floppy drive all cleaned out and lubed up, ready to be put back together. Even this thing slides so well. So let's get the PCB put back on, get this put back together, and then we'll consider the floppy drive done. Well, if it works, actually. I don't know. I had some problems with the 5150 originally, so I guess if this doesn't work, I do have the spare one I can use for now. Okay, let's reassemble this thing at least partially. I just realized I put the board back in here. I actually don't know if the board works. Well, I have an idea. Okay, so before I do power test that, just see if there's any possible shorts to ground. Okay, and I want to clarify. No, that is not a 100% proper test to test for bad caps on one of these motherboards. It's actually just a quick one to make sure there's no obvious shorts to ground. If one of these was technically shorted as it was, my meter would have beeped. The best way to test caps on these type of boards is to desolder them and test them out of circuit with especially a multimeter set to capacitance. But at that point, if I'm going to desolder them to test them, I might as well just replace them. Well, that quick test is mainly just to see if any of them are shorted now, which is, again, not the best test for one of these PCs, because these tantalum caps are known weak spots. But it's basically just a quick test to see if there's going to be an immediate problem when I put power to it, which we're going to go do. We're going to go see if this thing works before we continue trying to assemble it. Okay, so I need to test this motherboard, and I don't know if the power supply for the 5160 works yet, because I haven't, well, didn't get to work yet. So I'm going to use the power supply here out of the 5150. It's the spare one. And like this is just to test the motherboard. I'm not going to put this in the chassis. I just want to test the motherboard and see if it gives any sort of any sort of image at all with the MDA card on that AM deck. So yeah, I'm gonna go get this set up over there, and fingers crossed. So I got the 5160 set on top of the Turbo XT with the 5150 spare power supply. This is acting as a dummy load, because without it, the power supply might trip one of the protections and not kick on, and then I'll be walking around in circles trying to figure out what's going on. I have the MDA card that came out of it in the last slot so that we can at least see if there's an image. I got a keyboard to make sure, well, it does something. At least it won't give, it'll remove error. And then I have the AM deck monitor over there. But I'm going to have the camera right here, pointed at the board. That way, if there is an explosion from one of these caps or something shorts or whatever, we can catch it on camera. All right. Fingers crossed. Okay, nothing blew up, but I don't have an image on the monitor. So that is problematic. Okay, well, I completely forgot something. So this is the spare power supply out of the other 5150 that was dead. I completely forgot that this power supply was faulty. It was weak when I did the 5150 video, because I tested the outputs, and one of the voltage lines was below what it should be. So I completely forgot about that, assuming that I could make it work at least long enough to test this board. But turns out whatever it is, this will not work. So it's the part of one of my videos where I introduce jank to get this to work. And if you want to know what kind of jank I'm talking about, I have the Turbo XT open, power supply unhooked from its motherboard, and basically piggybacking into the XT's motherboard. I know this power supply works. Powered on and see if there's an image. See if there's any explosions. Nope. Good. Okay. Ooh. I have an image. It's got no brim. It's working. It's working. Maybe. I'm not gonna get too excited yet. 56 kilobyte OK, 601, error, resume F1 key. So it's working. There's no way. It's gonna boot to basic. It booted to basic. Yes. Yes. Oh, that is awesome. Okay, I was not expecting that to just work. Okay, so that's, well, let's stress it a little bit and let's throw in some more cards and see what I can get to work. All right, let's put in the RAM card. And let's put in the floppy controller. Even though I just realized I can't test the floppy drive right now because I don't have, well, actually, maybe I can. Okay, so let's put in some IBM DOS. Okay, so I've got the MDA card, the RAM card, and the floppy controller. So we should get 512K of RAM and boot to DOS 2.1. We've cracked it. Okay, good. So it should go up to 512K. Non-system disk. Okay, so there is a problem with the floppy drive. Okay, so there is a problem with the floppy drive still. I'm going to put in that spare drive of mine. I want to see if it'll work. Okay. So it boots. The floppy controller's working. RAM's card's working. Video card's working. The floppy drive doesn't, but that's a future thing. Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. This was educational. It just freaking worked. I am actually blown away by that. I'm floored. I was expecting there to be some sort of issue with this, but no, it just essentially worked. It counted up all the RAM, all the onboard RAM's good. It had video output. It went to basic, so I know the basic ROM's good. I was able to get it to boot from a floppy, which I am a little bummed out that the IBM branded one doesn't want to work. So I'll have to do some, well, diagnosing with it and see what's going on with this. But that'll be a future thing because I'm just superly impressed that it just worked. So I'm going to go ahead and partially reassemble this thing, and then once I get the power supply squared away, I'll get that installed if it works. That's the other thing, is I don't know if that one will work. It should work. I'm going to take it to work tomorrow and blow the dust out of it, and then go from there. So yeah, we're just going to assemble as much as we can today, right now, for today, and get it ready for the power supply tomorrow. And there, we got most of the XT put together, except for the video card. And that's because this is going to be getting an upgrade. As much as I would love to put the original MDA card back in here, because this is what came out of it, I already have MDA/Hercules taken care of with the 5150. So we're going to be installing this, the IBM CGA card. Look at that gorgeous brown and copper coloring. I love it. So yeah, this is going to be a nice upgrade because this is going to be a CGA based machine if all goes well. And we're going to install it in the last slot like it was, like the other one was. Alright, so this is looking super good. It's all mostly put back together. I know that all these things work. Well, that could stop working any minute, but most everything here works. Yeah, hopefully I can get the power supply to work. If not, I'll pull the one out of the Turbo XT and install this until I can get the correct one working. Yeah, I do. I want this one up and running and next to the 5150 and 70. And, you know, just set up and looking cool. So I'm going to stop right here for the night. And then tomorrow night, I should have the power supply cleaned out and fully inspected and tested. And we can go from there. Okay, so I got the power supply back on the bench. Took it to work, blew the dust out of the fan here, all the internals. And there was no like stuck dirt, like there was anything liquidy on the main board. So none of the caps, I think, leaked. None of them were bulging. So we're going to power test this by using the, well, bad floppy drive here as the dummy load. And I actually have not powered this thing on since I did all this, so I actually have no idea if this thing even works. Let's try it. Ooh. Well, that fan's noisy, but it is working. So let's check voltages. 5 volt there. 11.7 volts there. A little low, but not too bad. Keep the ground pin in there. $11.7. Nothing on white. So that's just power good. Okay. -12. 5, 5, 5, -5, and ground. Okay, so we have a good working power supply. So, turn that off. I should be able to hook this up back into the chassis here. Obviously, with this fan here being noisy, it is a problem, but the cover and case on it, it shouldn't be too bad. I'll take this thing back apart later, and I'll see if I can find a replacement for this. Let's get this thing put back in the 5160 and have it basically put all the way back together. All right, we are fully put back together. So now I'm going to go put this in place of the Turbo XT, switch over the CGA monitor from the 5170 onto this, and power it on and see it in all its glory. And hopefully this hard drive at least boots by itself. All right, I got it set up next to the 5150 and the 5170. And I'm ignoring this, trying to avoid looking at the screen because it's flickering. So power it on and see what happens. Oh, God, is that loud. It didn't get better. Now, there's no floppy in here, so it should just boot to 512K RAM. Should just boot to straight to the... Hey, the LED's on. Yes. Oh my God, look at that. Current date is Sunday, 1/31/1988. Whoa. It just instantly goes to this. Cool. All right, well, let's dive into this thing a little bit, see what's here. Okay, so I saw something called CD Assist, or Assist. Not sure what this is. Printer, file, what is this? Whoa! IBM Filing Assistant main menu. Design a form, add form, set printer. This is interesting. Okay. What is MS Tools? Oh, so just... Oh, well, I guess that's a... Guess that's nothing. I wonder what version of DOS this is. And I wonder why there's another DOS folder there. Okay, so we have IBM Personal DOS 3.1. Cool, this is actually fascinating. Okay, so let's go to CD DOS. What's in this DOS folder? I wonder why there's two versions of why there's two DOS things here. Wait, this one says version 2.10. Did they try to install a different version of DOS in over top of it locked up the machine. Uh-oh. Okay, it works. The hard drive boots just fine. It's noisier than all heck, but it booted. For some reason, there's two versions of DOS on there. Not sure what that's about. Um, it's just, this is awesome. This thing's just working. So, awesome. I do want to try something though. Let's not go back into that DOS folder on the hard drive, but let's see if it'll play a game. I don't have many games on floppy, unfortunately. But the ones I do have should work just fine. Okay, yeah. I think you know where this is going. We have PC speaker, because we do not have any sort of music card in here. You can barely hear the music because the hard drive's so loud. But this is awesome. It is running it just fine. Awesome. Ooh. What was that? I have RGB. Yeah, I can barely hear the sound effects or the sound of the hard drive. I'm not sure what that noise just was, though, because that's concerning. But it is working. And yes, I'm letting it run in demo mode because I tried doing this on my Dandy 1000HX, and I didn't know the controls. I had to look up the controls and all that kind of stuff, and I promptly forgot it between then and now. But all right, so it's working so well, it's actually playing some games. So I'm actually super happy by this. It looks so freaking cool. And the 5160 is sounding a little bit quieter, so I think it's just, I think the grease or the lubricant or something that's on the spinning platter section is dried out, and the longer it's running, the more it's going to break up and break back down and start lubricating again. So it's actually sounding a lot better. So either way, this looks freaking cool. Okay, well, as you can imagine and tell from me being flustered, this this video, this restoration, did not go anywhere how I was even expecting it at all. I could even fathom it at all. Because for the main thing is, it just works. The hard drive works. Okay, the floppy drive didn't work, but that's, I'm not going to be too concerned about that. I was just wholly expecting this thing to just need so much more work. I was expecting, with the amount of crud that was on that motherboard, to have killed something. And, bad trace, chip issues, corrosion, and it would need a whole lot of diagnosing and fixing and bodge wires. And I was expecting, like I said earlier, 2 or 3 videos with this thing to try and get it back up, to bring it back up to life. And turns out it just needed a good soaking in some simple green and a little bit of scrubbing, and It just works. I am absolutely floored by this and blown away. And that's because it's not without warrant as to why I was expecting it to need a lot more work. For starters, it's from 1984. This thing's 42 years old now. I mean, obviously, computers from the 80s all need work, and this one needed a lot of cleaning. I'm not saying it didn't need any work. It needed some work to get working. But the main reason why I was concerned about this was the 5150 here. The original one that I picked up several years ago had the exact same thing happen to it. There was a rather large mouse nest, and not to get too graphic, but the mice died, and then hot, humid summer, cold winter, hot summer, cold winter of it in storage. The whole board was just covered in corrosion and grime and just, ugh. And even the same thing, I soaked it in Simple Green basically for hours in hot water and Simple Green to try and get it all cleaned up. And it did clean up, but I could never get it brought back to life. It showed no life at all. It was missing voltage rails everywhere. It was missing clock signals everywhere. I could never get it brought back up. Even with a full recap, I bodged several wires and it just never wanted to get back to working, which is why I was actually kind of nervous about this one working or being made to work. I kind of was expecting that this was going to be on the bench over there for at least a few months of me messing around with it, trying to get it to go. And to my complete shock, it works. And it doesn't just work. Nearly everything about this thing just worked. Minus the original floppy drive, the MDA card that was in it just worked. That weird tiny little RAM card works. The floppy controller works. Even the original Xerox, I can't remember the part number off the top of my head, MFM hard drive controller and its matching ST412 hard drive works. That's the most impressive thing about this, is that hard drive is just functional. That's something I was never expecting, especially not when the 5150 had a very clean ST213. It doesn't function at all. It doesn't even register that there's a hard drive connected to the card. Now, obviously, I'm not saying this hard drive is going to last forever. It's probably more likely a fluke. And I've gone through it a little bit, and there's really nothing on here except for some bank information. So I'm not too concerned if it does die. But for the moment, it's a nearly all original 5160 that's just work. And as you saw, I played a few games. Obviously, yes, I need to get more games made on floppy, so that's going to be something I'm going to take care of here at some point so I can really test this thing out. But I'm blown away that it just works. And I have it set up here next to its siblings, the 5150 and the 5170. The Trio is back together, humming away like they should. It is amazing. So now that I don't need to take and have a 2 or 3 part restoration series on the 5160, what now? What's the plans for it? Well, the plan's right here. I want to have it set up and displayed alongside the 5150 and the 5170. All three of these machines are historic, and they have a legacy in their own right when it comes to computing as a whole. But I'll talk about all the plans for these in a future video. As for the 5160 specifically here, it's going to be getting a little bit more work, but it's going to be mainly in terms of upgrades. I'm going to be installing a serial card into here at some point. I do want to see if I can get one of the 640K, or I'm sorry, 384K upgrade cards working so I can pop it in here and have 640K. If that doesn't work, I do plan on picking up one of the ones from, I think it's Lotech. That will bump this thing up to the full 640K. I do intend on leaving this with CGA because I want this to be the CGA era game, machine. I am expecting the hard drive to fail at basically any point. There's going to be a day where it will not power up anymore. It won't spin up. It won't read. It'll crash. It'll something. I'm expecting it. I'm being realistic with it. So I'm going to plan on getting another XT to IDE adapter, just like what's in the 5150 here, so I can install it and run PC-DOS 3.3 or 6.2, whichever one I guess installs easier. I had issues on the 5150 for some reason. I don't know why. But yeah. Use that to replace the dead hard drive. In fact, I'm also going to get the front panel adapter that will allow me to install the CF card or SD card from the front, so I don't have to reach around the back all the time to pull the card out like I do the 5170. Yeah, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this really surprising restoration video of the PC 5160. This was a roller coaster of a video. I, again, was not expecting this to go as well as it did, but it just went swimmingly well. So if you have any thoughts or comments about the restoration in general, put it down in the comments. If you have any games that would be work perfectly or software that would work perfectly, let me know. I am going to be attempting to low-level format this drive in the near future and seeing if I can install IBM PC-DOS 3.1, which is what's on this thing, or maybe PC-DOS 2.1, since I think that's what this thing would have came with originally anyway. I'll have to do some more Googling and searching. So be on the lookout for that video, and it's probably going to be a really short video because that's probably going to be when this drive does conk out and fail. Be on the lookout for some more videos involving the entirety of the PC Trio here, because I do have a video coming up in the works that does involve all three of these doing something that's going to be fun, which is why I do need to get at some point a serial card put in here. You'll have to see what that is when I get to it. And if you are just as surprised as I am that the ST412 here just is working, put it down in the comments and tell me if you have any neat stories of old hardware that shouldn't work that somehow do. I'd love to hear about it and talk about it in a future video. But again, with that being said, thank you all so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.